Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I'm hanging out here in my bedroom, in my bed, with my sweet little thing down here that I'll show you all in a minute. She's sleeping at the moment, so I'm just gonna let the sleeping baby lie while I chat with you all and tell you how it's going. We posted the birth announcement when she arrived, so you all would know that she came, but we wanted to give you the details on our sweet new girl, as well as her birth and everything that happened after. I know this could get really long really easily, so I will try to be pointedly brief, but if you all have any questions at any time, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. I'm happy to answer them. We are happy to do another video, and Josh can help me out with it to answer any and all questions for you all. Her birth story kind of started on Thursday the 13th of August. I started having like real early labor, and I had not hardly slept the night before, so when it started kicking up that night around dinner time, I was like, all right, okay, I can do this. I can do hard things. And things got more intense through the night, and then around 1:30 a.m. we called in the troops and went to the birth center. When I got there, I was 3 centimeters dilated, but almost fully effaced, and having contractions consistently every 2 to 3 minutes. And then around 5 a.m. I just kind of hit a wall. The night before I had had maybe an hour of broken sleep, and then this night I had been laboring all night, and I just was exhausted, and I actually ended up falling asleep on the floor of the birth center. When I woke up around 6, I wasn't having any contractions anymore, and I was just depleted. My midwife suggested, because I hadn't really made any progress in all those hours of hard work, that I go home and just relax, maybe take some Tylenol PM, and try to get some sleep in my own bed now that contractions had stopped. She said, maybe we'll see you later today, maybe we'll see you tonight or tomorrow, whatever, get some sleep. So that's exactly what we did. We went home, I took some Tylenol PM, and I went to bed, and I slept that whole day. When I woke up, they kicked back in again. They were still only about 10 minutes apart, but that went on. Basically sitting in the very early stages of labor through Sunday. Monday morning I woke up and I did not have a single contraction, but I had like massive pressure, just indescribable. I thought I was just going to split open, but there were no contractions. So I just carried on about my day. I got some seedlings planted in the garden. I did lots of different things just because I'd been kind of stewing and sitting in this holding pattern, and I just felt like, all right, I just need to do something. So I stayed busy, got some gardening done, checked on the bees, and then Monday night I started having contractions, hard ones. And all Monday night through the night they stayed about 15 minutes apart, but they were hard and about 1.5 minutes long when they happened. Thankfully, I actually was able to get a great night's sleep. I would kind of come half awake and be aware like that they were happening while I was sleeping, but I could just immediately go right back into a deeper sleep. Tuesday morning when I woke up around 6 o'clock, they immediately, as soon as I was upright, were about 7 to 10 minutes apart. So when the kids got up, I made breakfast, and I just knew that Tuesday was the day. It was my estimated due date. And I told the kids when they got up, I said, listen guys, I am in labor. It is not strong enough to have to go to the birth center yet, but let's get ready for mama to be gone and go have a baby in a little bit. So they were really great and helped me get some more gardening done, and we cleaned the house as much as, you know, I could in between contractions and they as kids do. Around 9 o'clock, I was really hungry. So Josh made me steak and green beans because that's what sounded really good to me. And I ate a whole plate of steak and green beans. Took a shower, nice warm shower to relax, and went to bed. I said, I need to make sure this is the really real thing, you know, and get some rest, because more rest never hurts. When I woke up around 10:30, as soon as I got up, it was on hard, like every 3 to 5 minutes contractions, and right away needing to vocalize through them. I said, all right, Josh, let's go. Called the midwife and she's like, yes, let's have a baby today. Called the doula and she's like, yes, let's have a baby today. We were all excited. And got to the birth center around noon. Immediately got in the birth tub because water birth is my happy place. I've always loved it. It's such an immense comfort to me to be in the water when I'm having contractions. After a couple of hours, I felt like I was ready to push. Gave a couple pushes and my water broke. There was a little bit of meconium in the water, but it wasn't anything drastic. But after a little bit of pushing, it just didn't feel like she was making any progress, which is unusual for me. Usually when my babies kind of assume the position and are ready to come out, they come out fast. But she didn't, and I worked a little bit, and then my midwife suggested I get out and try the birth stool, which honestly I have always hated because I have big babies, so I feel it a lot in my tailbone when they're coming down. So the thought of sitting on the birth stool was like, but it wasn't awful. I tried that for a couple of pushes and it still felt like she wasn't really coming down. So my midwife asked if I would just get on the bed real quick so she could check things out and feel what was happening internally while I was pushing. And I stood up and took like the 3 steps over to the bed and something shifted. Like I physically felt something happen. And I just remember like yelling and immediately just like having to bear down hard. And I did, and I felt her move like enormously. I just felt her come down so much. And it was so hilarious to me because that contraction eased off. So I just like let myself take a breather because I kind of knew inside myself she was going to be born with the next contraction. And I started laughing because on the drive to the birth center, Josh and I had been talking about this one viral video that's going around about the mom who's like walking up to the door of the birth center and has her baby standing up while the midwife catches the baby and stuff. And I said to him, I can't imagine giving birth standing up because I have to focus on staying so relaxed and not tensing up against the pain and just riding it to push the baby out. And I can't imagine having to stand and basically have tension in my lower body to be standing and deliver a baby. And I was like, I just started laughing and I said to my midwife, on the drive here, I was just telling Josh I could never have a baby standing up. And she's like, well, your baby wants to be born standing up. And she sure did. With the very next contraction, she was out fast. She was absolutely healthy and perfect and beautiful. She seemed to have such big opinions when she was in my belly. So we joked that she must have red hair like me. So I was pretty shocked when she had a full head of black hair. Black hair, dark olive skin, just like Daddy. And she was so much bigger than we expected. I only gained 3 pounds this whole pregnancy, and my belly was measuring small for gestation the whole pregnancy. But our sweet girl was born on her actual due date and weighed 9 pounds, 5 ounces, and was 22 inches long. The birth was beautiful and so relaxed, and despite that extra work that I had to put into pushing and figuring out how she wanted to actually come out, it was, if a natural birth can ever be called easy, that's what it was. and it was great. It felt wonderful to be in such a peaceful, joy-filled environment. Our midwife and her assistant were wonderful. Our doula was amazing. Josh was, of course, awesome. He is such an amazing birth partner. And we relaxed at the birth center for a few hours. Everything went absolutely perfectly. And then we started packing up to go home. And that's kind of when everything changed. When I got up to get dressed, I passed some pretty big clots, and my midwife had me get back in bed and checked. My uterus was firm, which means it's clamping down, and she checked things out. She was very, very thorough. And we talked a lot about, you know, what could be going on, you know, because it all was still perfectly normal. It's just when you deliver an out-of-hospital birth, one of the responsibilities you take on yourself and your care team is to be like so detailed and careful. So we had those discussions, and she ended up sending me home with a Methergin pill for kind of like a worst case scenario. God forbid, it's so incredibly unlikely, and you start to bleed at home. Just take this pill and call me, because the Methergin will make your uterus clamp down, and that will, you know, typically make your uterus stop bleeding. So, you know, I tucked it away, zipped it up in my purse, just as like an abundance of caution type of emergency plan. So we drove home, and we were almost home, and I started, all I can describe is feeling like I was gushing. And I got out of the van when we got home, and we'll just say I was a mess. Josh helped me out. He had to take the baby because I was feeling a little dizzy getting inside. I went inside, went to the bathroom, and passed a lot of clots. A lot. But then it stopped. I got in bed and called my midwife, and we talked for a few minutes. And she, you know, talked through options, talked about what might be going on, what to be aware of. All right. Felt good about everything because it had stopped. I was laying down in bed, resting. And then about 10 minutes later, it happened again. While I was laying in bed, just laying perfectly still, I just started gushing. And it didn't stop. So I called her back. She said, take the Methergin pill. And so I took it, and we waited a few minutes. I said to her, I said, I need to call 911, don't I? And she's like, you need to call 911. So Josh called. He got the kids in bed real quick while we were waiting for the ambulance to arrive. And meanwhile, I texted my mom and sisters and our small group of friends here in Virginia and just said, I'm hemorrhaging. Josh called 911. I'm really scared. Our local EMS arrived quickly. They were wonderful. And I wasn't able to take the baby with me, but they did tell Josh to follow the ambulance with the baby in her car seat, and they would try to get the baby to be able to come into the hospital with me, because with all the current COVID restrictions, it's just, things are really tricky right now. Meanwhile, while I was in the ambulance and on the stretcher, I could still feel the gushing. I was sitting on a waterproof ambulance in a puddle of my own blood. And there, I had left a trail of blood through my own house. We got to the hospital very quickly, and they immediately took me out to the labor and delivery ICU, and the on-call obstetrician was a wonderful woman. I'd never seen her before in my life, but she and the nurses that were with her all activated very quickly, and I'll spare you the details. But in short, she had to go in manually before they could get me any kind of medication for pain or anything of the sort, and manually pull out a lot of clots and a lot of blood. And ultimately, they found a tiny piece of the water bag, not even the placenta, because the placenta had come out whole, but the actual membrane that makes the baby's water bag that ruptures, a teeny tiny piece about the size of a pinky nail had stuck to the inside of my uterus. And when the uterus clamps down, it naturally sloughs those things off. It's just part of the process. Like if those things stay behind, which is not unusual, that clamping, like the muscle waves, kind of slough it off. Well, that didn't happen. My uterus kept firming up when it was massaged and it would clamp, but that teeny tiny piece was irritating things and not allowing it to stay firm. So my uterus would clamp down and then it would relax and just start pouring blood again. They started an IV line and filled me with Pitocin. They gave me a huge bolus of Methergin, threw a shot in my thigh. They gave me a Cytotec suppository. All those things are supposed to, they're different methods of making the uterus clamp down. And none of it worked. All the while, they were manually going in and trying to dig out the problem and find it. At one point, I remember hearing the doctor call the OR and tell them to prep for emergency hysterectomy. I just started hysterically crying because I mean, if that's what it takes to save my life, okay, but that's scary stuff. I am so thankful that they were able to stop it. They ended up basically inserting a balloon into my uterus and filling it with saline to put pressure on all the wounds, because when your placenta comes away, it creates a wound inside your uterus and it slowly heals over time. But mine was struggling to even stop bleeding, so they filled it with saline to put pressure, like equal pressure, all the way inside my uterus and hold it there to try to be kind of, in addition to all the medication, a manual way of stopping the bleeding. And there were a few other things that they did that I will spare you the details of, but I spent a day in the hospital with those things in place to physically stop the bleeding and on medications to make the uterus clamp down and stop bleeding. They slowly started stopping all the measures that were helping to stop the bleeding and just watched and waited to see if anything would start again. And nothing started again. So after a while, we were able to go home. In total, they said I lost at least half my blood volume. So that has been a challenge. I'm feeling pretty depleted. I'm very thankful for my diet of things like steak and kale through the whole pregnancy, because apparently my body knew it was going to need extra nutrients. We are home now, and my baby girl is healthy and strong through all of it. She has been amazing. She's so sweet and mellow, and I'm so thankful for the hospital staff that worked with us on COVID regulations and allowed her to be with me in the hospital so that I could keep breastfeeding, and they allowed Josh to be there to take care of her because I couldn't, I had to stay flat on my back with all the things I was hooked up to. So he would just bring her to me and prop pillows around her so that she could nurse all hours of the day and night. He was amazing. Things have been really emotionally complicated in light of all that, and obviously physically complicated too. But we're home now, and I'm doing so much better, so much better. Things, aside from being incredibly depleted and some extra physical trauma, things are kind of shifting into a more normal postpartum experience now, which is really wonderful. Thankfully, I have been able to continue to breastfeed, and my milk is coming in, and she is really appreciating that. But everything's going great. Our midwife has been out. They come out every 24 hours to check in and do all the typical newborn checks and things. Things are going really, really well now. I just have to take it very easy, listen to my limitations. I made the mistake of walking out to the garden today to see how the new seedlings we put in while I was in labor were doing, and had to have help getting back inside because I almost passed out. The hard thing I'm having to do right now is to do nothing, because my body is just trying to make blood and oxygenate and now make milk. The kids have been amazing. It was a scary, scary thing for them. I'm so grateful that Josh had the presence of mind to send them off to bed when I was kind of in crisis here at home, and they listened. And right away, the friends that we texted, several of them came to the house. My doula came and cleaned up the mess so no one else had to witness the mess. I'm so grateful my kids didn't have to see that. Everyone we've dealt with has been wonderful. My midwife's care has been amazing. The situation that I dealt with, well-retained placenta, can be a more common thing. The situation that I dealt with, where something like a tiny piece of membrane causing such drama, is actually a very rare situation. I'm really grateful all the people that have been involved, that have helped take care of us. We had such a wonderful, wonderful birth experience. And the postpartum's been a little different, but the birth itself was just amazing. And we're so glad she's here, and she is so sweet. She just wants to be snuggled and held all the time. She never cries, ever. She's just so sweet. Like I said before, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. We're happy to answer them. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you for all your love and support through the whole pregnancy. If you don't follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you can check us out there. We've posted some pictures of her over the last couple of days. As always, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to hang out for more. We'll see you again really soon.